right, everybody, it's time once again. It's time for the podcast. But who, ladies and gentlemen, who is on the other side of the, well, I guess they can't really see anything. Who is sitting in the golden podcast guest chair here at Rage Select this week? Just we're gonna yank the curtain up real fast and just and there goes the curtain. Oh my god, it's fucking Nick Hodges. What? Hey,
woohoo!
How's it going, man?
Doing all right, man. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. I haven't talked to you in quite a while, I guess. I was trying to think of the last time you and I were on a podcast.
It's been months, dude. I don't know. Let me know if I'm a bit off, because I think I'm pretty much out of practice with this whole podcast thing. Mm-hmm. So you're the expert again.
You still have the electrodes that we used to put on your nutsack, right? So that I could you just hit Control Alt like N for Nick, and then it just right.
Oh no, dude! They run out of juice. You know, we're doing this more, then you need to send them over again.
Son of a bitch! Well, before we get into it, Nick, I feel like we've got quite a bit. What have you been up to? I'm actually trying to look up here when the last time that I had you on the podcast was. But what have you been up to recently? You've been playing? Have you played? Okay, so we are in the middle of the fucking just video games they're just shooting out of the video game industry's rectum like the worst porno you've ever seen. But have you? I mean, okay. Let's back up for a second. First off, Nick, do you have any of the next gen consoles yet?
I actually bought the PlayStation 4 not long ago.
Okay, how long?
God, I think it probably when Watch Dogs came out. I think that's when I got it. Yeah, but it was a while before I could start actually getting video games I really wanted to play, because I know it's just felt to me like the PlayStation 4's collection's been really sparse recently. Like there hasn't been that many good games, but I got a couple recently that I've been enjoying.
What, pray tell, were they?
Shadow of Mordor. I'm
Okay.
playing the shit out of that, and Alien Isolation, which I absolutely adore. It's the game that I always wanted for the Alien franchise, and it just makes my memories of Alien Colonial Marines that much better, basically. I'll be like, okay, that's that one experiment that I'll just forget about. It was a horrible experience. This is the official Alien game.
Yeah, we haven't done a review for it yet. But it's funny because I played all the way through it, and I was very mixed about that game, and I'm not gonna wax on too much about it because I wanted to kind of save it for the review. But I felt that the biggest problem that I had with it was it just seemed. Have you beaten the game yet? Have you gotten to all the way to the end of the game? Okay,
I finished the game.
I just felt it was really long. It was so long, and there was so much like backtracking from this place to this other place. Like I thought the game was gonna. It was like watching the goddamn Lord of the Rings movies. Like I was like, all right, 8 hours in, this is the end. Nope. 10 hours in, this. Nope. 12 hours. This has got to be. God damn, how fucking long is this game? And I think it kind of reminded me a little bit of The Last of Us in that way of just like there was a certain point where everything just kind of became very much just a process, right? It's like I know what to do when the alien comes, and so a lot of the spookiness, a lot of the scariness. Like I think it's actually great because people got to see on Rage Select me when I was most scared of the alien, which was we played it for the dojo and we played the little challenge map mode, and then I played it with the Oculus Rift. And when I tell you, I don't usually get freaked out by video games, but when that alien jumps up in your face and you got a VR headset on, it's just like, oh god, fucking waving your hands.
Man, I'm jealous. That sounds so cool.
Well, it's not.
I mean, don't get me wrong. When I was playing it, like I was thinking about if I was still critiquing games with you guys, that probably would have been a factor. The fact that it was so long, but as just a casual gamer, someone who wants to be careful with their money, and when they buy a game, they want to get the most out of it. It's perfect in a way because it goes on for quite a bit.
Yeah, I could totally see that. So you played You played Alien, you played Shadow of Mordor. The other one that stands out to me this year on the PlayStation 4 was Wolfenstein. Have you played Wolfenstein yet?
No, I haven't played Wolfenstein yet.
I highly recommend that game. I mean, it's not like if you're talking about kind of being money conscious and making sure that you're getting everything out of the game that you can. It's not exactly the longest game in the world, but that was such a surprise because I kind of expected so little of Wolfenstein that when it actually was a really solid, well put together game, I was excited by it, and it really did quite a bit for me. But we're right in the middle of the complete game apocalypse. Like, okay, so I'm trying to think what's coming out. Are Assassin's Creed Unity? We gonna be getting that next week?
I'm interested to play that. I mean, like, to be perfectly honest, my faith for the Assassin's Creed games has kind of dwindled down ever since the abomination, which was Assassin's Creed 3. I'm sure I gave it like a really glowing review before, but that game does not age well over time. It kind of sticks in your kind of memories like, they really fucked that up, didn't they? They had so much potential.
Yeah.
And so when I played Black Flags, it was fun, but I never actually finished the game. Like, I just... I thought it was amusing, but when I left the game, nothing drew me back to finishing it, if you know what I mean.
Okay, so when you played Black Flag, you played that on the PlayStation 3?
Yeah, I did.
Do they still do that thing? Because I know that when I got my PS4, they had some thing where if you register, like if you go online and you basically like Assassin's Creed Black Flag came with like some kind of code or something where you could go online and get the PS4 version for free.
No, it wasn't for free. I mean, I think in my game you had to like pay 10 quid.
Oh, okay.
In order to play it, and I was like, fuck off, you know, because I got my PlayStation 3 collecting dust right next to my PlayStation 4, so, you know, I'm going to be conservative and play both. So, yeah, it's the same reason why I didn't get Watch Dogs for PlayStation 4 as well.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that, for me it was weird because when I played Black Flag on the PS3, I was kind of meh about it. Like, I thought it was good, but it was still very repetitive. But what I found really interesting was that then I did that $10 upgrade for the PS4 version of it, and it looks so good on the PlayStation 4. And at this point, it probably looks like garbage because I've been playing everything on the PS4 or the Xbox One for the last year. But I don't know. That one was a good one as well. I'm trying to look at some of the other stuff. Oh yeah, they had that Sleeping Dogs Definitive Edition and the Metro redo, both of the Metro games.
Yeah, that's one game I actually bought as well. Like the Metro Redux. That game looks really, really good. But I was already kind of a fan of that game when I was playing on the PC. Okay. But I definitely recommend people buy that because two games in one, and they've completely redone it, added in new scenes and stuff. Like that was definitely worth buying.
How about?
I mean, the only game I'm actually really looking forward to buying specifically PlayStation 4 is The Witcher 3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like graphically, that's like pushing boundaries, and I'm looking upon it with the same keen interest I had when kind of Mass Effect 3 was coming out.
Mm-hmm. What about did you Destiny? No Destiny for you?
Oh no! I could already tell from the trailers that I wasn't going to be interested in Destiny. I think I saw like a walkthrough on YouTube like before it came out when it was just beta, and just from the first like 2 or 3 minutes where you had like Peter Dinklage being very monotone and telling you, "Oh, you've just come back to life. Well, why didn't you follow me this way?" It's like, okay, yeah, this game is not for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And
I was right.
As the only other person in the world that I know, well, the only other physical person who I've met in real life, did you get Ground Zeroes? Did you give that a shot?
Well, no, because that's just a demo.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like the same thing. I want to, because I don't have as much money as I did before. I want to get as much as I can for my investment in buying a game.
Okay. I can totally see that. I think they just lowered the price on that, but and then let me think. I was trying to think of the stuff that's coming out for the rest of the year. Far Cry 4, Dragon Age Inquisition.
Not Dragon Age Inquisition, but Far Cry 4. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Metal Gear Solid's. What's the new new one called?
The Fan of Pain.
That's right. Yeah, I'll be getting that because I know you can squeeze hours and hours out of that game.
And what about Bloodborne? You going to put Bloodborne on that list? You talk about squeezing value out of a game. I mean, if it's anything like the rest of the series, I can tell you right now that you probably sink a zillion hours into that without any serious problems.
Oh my god, I am so out of it. Like, I've never even heard of that game. Sorry, dude. What is that?
Bloodborne. Bloodborne is the new game by Miyazaki, the creator of Demon Souls and Dark Souls. God damn it! I actually have this game with myself now, where whenever I do anything for Rage Select, I try to see how long I can go without mentioning one of the fucking Souls games because I'm tired of hearing me talk about it. But no, you should definitely go check out some of the trailers for Bloodborne because it's like. It's got this very interesting aesthetic of like it kind of looks like Victorian era London, but it's full of like these weird monsters, and you've got this kind of like there's guns in it, but they're kind of old timey guns, and then you've got melee weapons, and it looks like it's going to be at least some sort of spiritual successor to the Souls series. And that comes out, I think, in like February. I can't wait. It's one of the big ones on my list.
If I can recall, the Dark Souls games are fucking brutal, and from you recounting them on our previous days, I don't think I particularly want to play them because they're so hard.
No, you want to play them, Nick? Come on, somebody's got to. Nobody here. I can't get anybody in town to play them
because nobody wants to play a game where basically you're running circles around a boss, stabbing him in the arse, waiting for him to die.
That's what Lords of the Fallen is. That's not what Dark Souls is. Well, it may be what Dark Souls 2 is. Anyway, I'm not gonna continue. I'm done there. But all right. Well, we've caught up on video games. The other thing I wanted to ask you, I think we might have gone over this last year, and you can expect me to ask you this question probably every year that I talk to you. But Halloween just got done. Do you guys know about Halloween over there in Britain? Have you guys heard of this? Where you dress up and drink a lot, and I mean, do y'all do that, or is it just kind of like you're like Americans with your dumb candy?
No, we do it. It's just that you guys embrace it, whereas we're kind of like, oh yeah, it's Halloween. Should we do something? And if there's enough people in the room who want to do something, then we'll do it. But it's not absolutely crazy. At least around the social circle I'm in. I mean, I certainly didn't do anything, but.
Is it all just really like super lame costumes that people have put together, where they put like a blue shirt on? And they're like, "I'm from Star Trek, mate," and you're like, "Wait, what?"
No, I think if people do go out for Halloween in the UK, like they will really put some effort into it. It just takes some effort into actually organizing your schedule into doing it. I mean, like you go out clubbing in London, and you'll see all sorts of really, really crazy costumes, but you'll see some lazy ones as well. Like there are some chicks who just do the sluttiest outfits ever, just as an excuse to come out slutty looking. Sure,
that's what Halloween is for, man. Slutty costumes.
Yeah. My favorite is the cat costume. No effort put into it whatsoever. It's just like some whiskers and some ears on the head, and that's it. And a black dress. So
Chepo, our friend down here who does Karaoke Apocalypse, that you've seen before. Decided, because we didn't have Kayla's big Halloween party this year, that he decided to put on a Halloween thing as everybody showed up. And you talk about the people who put all the effort into costumes, and I've gotten really, really jaded over the years with having to come up with a really good costume and then putting a shit ton of work into it beforehand, like having to come up with something really clever that nobody else is going to have just in case. So this year I did a thing that I've been kind of threatening to do for a bunch of years, and there's a Catholic supply store here in town. So I just went down and bought a cassock and a shirt, one of those shirts with a little white thing on it, the priest shirt, and I just put that on, and I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'm a priest, despite. But the people at the Catholic store, they were kind of put out when I walked in like 10 minutes before they closed, and I was like, hey man, I need a Halloween costume. Where do you keep that shit priest wear? And they were like, over there. And it was like, I mean, this is the legit place where the people, where actual people, men of the cloth, as they say, go like this. It was just one of those black up and down cassocks, right? But it was like next to a rack that had a like $1,300 embroidered, like what the Pope wears on the weekends, like the Pope equivalent of a T-shirt that's a little bit too baggy and a pair of sweatpants, but it's just this giant, all this. I think the word Jesus is in there, like floating around, just random to subliminalize you. But yeah, I mean, you buy a thing of communion wafers. I felt.
It's the fact that you said that it was for a Halloween costume. I mean, like, they probably thought that, here's some average Joe dickhead who's going to come dressed as a pedophilic priest at, some Halloween party and think it's really original and cool. I mean, I think if it was something like, I don't know, for a movie or something like a independent art house cinema, they'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, this guy has some integrity.
Hey, Nick, I was in, like, the Lord's Kmart, all right? I was in the Lord's Target at that point. The last thing I want to do is lie to these people. And they weren't, what's funny is that they weren't mean. They really did turn the other cheek. They were meek. They were trying to inherit the earth. I don't know how many more of these I can shove in here before I continue my story, but they were nice. It's just that, like, kind of when I was then looking through the rack of cassocks and holding them up and trying them on and stuff like that, every so often I look over there and I could see the little sideways dagger eyes going at me, like, what the fuck? I don't know. Maybe I got it all wrong. Maybe it was because they were getting ready to close in 10 minutes, and it wasn't.
Yeah, that'll probably be it. Yeah.
It wasn't a religious thing. It was just like, can we get this fucking asshole out of here? Like, I want to go to the Jesus Halloween party that we're throwing, where everybody dresses up as either Jesus or Mary Magdalene, and So yeah, but then I just dressed up as a priest and got completely wasted, and everybody else had, like, really, really super creative costumes. Some people had multiple costumes that they would change as the night went on into other costumes, and I was just like, my God, you people put a lot of work into this. Like, our friend Bo had a really nice, he had the Hawkeye vest and a bow and a quiver of arrows. There was a lot of Marvel stuff there. At the end of the night, I believe Corey showed up in, like, this full Falcon costume for the Winter Soldier, and it was just like, I don't know where you people have the time. I mean, I know I don't have the time. Like, on Halloween, I got a haircut, I got my oil changed, and at like 4:30, I went, oh yeah, I should probably go buy a Halloween costume. Is that Catholic store still open? Let me go drive down there.
Okay. What I was saying before about Brits making an effort, let me correct that. Nothing in comparison to you Americans, okay? Like, that sounds crazy that you would get 2 Halloween costumes for one night. I mean, I thought, like, making an effort was simply buying a Halloween costume.
See, I guess that's the thing. Is maybe I think it's double trouble. I think it's double trouble in Austin, because not only does America keep taking Halloween more and more seriously and being more and more interested in it, but in Austin, everybody's got to be the most creative, original motherfucker on the face of the earth, or they feel like they're the worst, right? So everybody is just making this just horrific attempt to make sure. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just that I don't make any effort, and there's a few times where I just show up to a Halloween party in my street clothes. There's like, what are you supposed to be? I'm like, fuck you. That's what I'm supposed to be. I'm not dressed up for this bullshit. But yeah, there was some really good costumes there. Jason and Allison, as usual, they did a whole couples costume thing based on the cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Kayla was in a full-on Alf costume.
Alf, like the alien life form Alf.
Yes, it was actually bizarre.
That is awesome. That is so cool.
Because she walked up to me and she had the Alf costume on, right? But she had the head off, and so it was just her head, and on her head she had a cat makeup on, and it was like, I don't understand what you're supposed to be. And she's like, I'm the cat that Alf ate. And I went, well, then why do you have Alf's body? Shouldn't she be coming out of Alf's, like, rear? And she's like, no. Alf ate this cat, and then the cat destroyed the inside of Alf and is now wearing Alf like a second skin. I'm just like, I got to give Kayla a lot of respect for being like, if you don't have a Halloween costume, you just make some shit up and then just tell people that, and they'll be like, all right, I guess. I mean, whatever. That sounds sure, Kayla. I think you may have to actually be Kayla Cromer in order to make that an actual thing, because I don't think that a normal person could just can get away with that. But.
Yeah, it took me a second or two. It's like, why a cat costume? Oh, yeah, doesn't Alf eat cats?
Yeah,
no, that doesn't make sense because the cat would be in the stomach.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. Good one.
But let's see, Brian Salisbury showed up dressed as Two-Face. That was pretty cool. Our friend Tony came dressed up as Jason from the NES Friday the 13th game. So he was wearing
specifically Jason Voorhees from the NES game.
Yeah, like he was wearing a Jason mask, but he had like a very purple and blue kind of clothing on. That was pretty cool. But yeah, there was a lot of good stuff. And then of course, as I said, just way too much. I need to go to bars, Nick, because bars will make you stop drinking, and going to a party with a 12-pack means that you could just sit there and run through an entire 12-pack of beers.
Yes, but bars are also more expensive, so in a way, you're saving money by going to house parties.
Yeah, I don't think I've got the self-control for that. So, but you said you didn't actually go out on Halloween. You didn't actually do
No, actually, I was working that day, and then randomly I was just saying to my girlfriend, like, we should go out. And she's like, it's Halloween. I'm like, is it? Oh, fuck that. I don't want to go out with a whole bunch of teenagers in clubs and shit dressing up. Because I would look like an idiot for not dressing up. So just sat at home, watched some horror movies and drank some beer.
Yeah, that's what my dad always used to say. He always used to be like, Halloween, St. Patty's Day, New Year's Eve, that's amateur night. So the rest of us who actually drink all the time, we should all stay in on those nights, because it's just the amateurs out there who think they know how to drink. So I don't know. Us alcoholics, we'll stay inside, and then we'll go back out once the coast is clear. But you know what? We've got a lot of news here, and so I guess the only other thing, maybe, Nick, is I don't want to be like work shaming you, because I'm sure that you work all the time and stuff. But every time I have you on the show, I always ask if you've been planning to do this video series for a while now, and I'm just waiting for the day that I could tell the folks over at Rage Select the URL to go to, or the YouTube channel to go to. Are you still putting that together?
Well, actually, surprisingly, I just got funding over very, very recently.
Congratulations!
So thank you very much. It's just that I've got to do everything by myself, and so I've been kind of taking the time, trying to teach myself on how to start up a small business, and do all these insurance things, and researching and finding people who could possibly help me. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to rush it, because I don't want it to bomb after a month or so. So that's pretty much the update of it. But the biggest news is I got money.
Well, that's great. And what you've just said sounds like a very reasonable way to start a business out, which is not really what I did, where it was just like, I don't know, YouTube channel. Fuck it, whatever. Facebook, yeah, that's a thing. I don't know, Twitter, but who can make a logo? So raise your hand if you can make Allison. All right, cool. Yeah, but that sounds cool. Well, you definitely have to let us know when that gets going, because I think that everybody is. I think there are a lot of folks here on the site who would love a place where they could see more Nick on a regular basis.
Well, thank you very much, kind sir.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's get on. We've got a fair amount of news to get through this week, although a lot of these stories I think are going to go pretty quickly. But I think the biggest story was one that came up, as of this recording. We're recording a little bit earlier this week than we normally do. So they're finally putting out The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask on the 3DS, which I think is great, because I never got a chance to play Majora's Mask, and I don't even have an N64, and even if you have an N64, if you hook it up to a television and turn it on, you just immediately get cancer in your eyes from looking at the. Well, okay, let's not be hyperbolic here, Nick. All right, you don't get cancer; you get AIDS in your eyes. That's what
cancer in the eyes.
That's right.
I was just waiting for you to explain how that made sense. But okay, AIDS is better.
No, okay. So this is a thing that I feel like I have to explain every time this comes up, because I feel that a lot of people don't understand it. Right? I didn't have an N64, so I had some friends who had an N64, but around that time I was doing drugs and trying to get laid and driving around Austin in a fever pitch of proto-hipster madness. It was out of high school, got a job that pays you too much money, doing your thing. Or maybe this is when I was a senior in high school, or maybe directly after. So a lot of people, when they look back on the N64, they have a certain amount of nostalgia because they played it when they were kids or when they were younger. I'm not even saying, 12 or younger or 13 or younger or whatever. They have a certain amount of nostalgia for it. So a lot of people, it was their first console, and so they have a lot of love for that was the place they discovered video games. Well, I don't have that love. So when I look at the graphics on the N64, I go, so I'm really hoping that because a lot of people have said for a long time, hey, Jeff, you don't like the traditional Zelda format. You should play Majora's Mask because it does something really different with the franchise. And it was like the only time that Nintendo ever went out on a really big limb with the Zelda franchise to try to do something really crazy and different. I don't know. Did you play? What's your Zelda history, Nick?
I have zero Zelda history. I mean, the first console I had was the PlayStation 1. And I simply got that because Resident Evil was on it. And so I was kind of just a loyal Sony fan ever since I got PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, 3, and 4. So I never played the N64. I dabbled a little bit in the Sega Mega Drive, or the Sega Genesis, as you guys call it. But yeah, unfortunately, not that much into Nintendo. The Game Boy.
Man, I feel so. I mean, because the thing. This is back in the way back when this first came up. I think it was when I was still just writing articles, but I didn't. It took me a long time to understand that because there's a whole group of gamers where they're just like Ocarina of Time, greatest game I ever played in my life, and they'll measure all of the Zelda games by how they stack up to Ocarina of Time. And for me, I've always measured them against the original NES Legend of Zelda and especially the Super Nintendo A Link to the Past, because those are the games that I played when I was like 11, right? Or 11, 12, 13 or whatever. So those are the best Zelda games to me. But that makes me sad, man, because like at least at there's a bunch of the Zelda games that I feel are really some of the classics, like some of the really like just solid classic video games, things that made things happen that had never happened before. You know what you need, Nick? You know what I'm going to do? Or no, I'm not going to say
you're not going to do anything, but all right.
But
yeah.
Do you know what you should Okay. What we should do is we should launch a Kickstarter. No, you can't do it on Kickstarter. We should launch a GoFundMe page to get Nick Hodges a 3DS. Not a Wii U, not anything that's going to be big. It's going to take up a lot of space. But like the 3DS, I think that you could still play a bunch of the old NES games via the eShop, and you could play like Ocarina of Time. You could play all this other stuff. Because as much as I love so much to just shit on Nintendo. I mean, not as much these days. The Wii U has finally kind of hit its stride, and I like the Wii U a lot more than the Wii. But they are a good game company. They do interesting things, and they're a little too conservative for my taste a lot of the time. But there's whole swaths of gaming history that you just can't really talk about without having some kind of relationship, or at least discussing Nintendo. I don't know. No,
the impression I had always with Nintendo is just that they like to play it safe, and that always kind of made me a bit wary of them. I mean, like more so recently. I mean, like at the time they were like groundbreaking, and I definitely heard of them. But I had to make a choice as a kid: PlayStation or N64.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, by the time that I got into that generation, for me, it was the PlayStation, and that was, and I, it's kind of odd. I think how there's a lot of nostalgia that people have for the N64. I don't tend to hear as much nostalgia for the original PlayStation, but when I think back on it, my fucking original PlayStation, I played the shit out of that thing for years and years. All the Final Fantasy, 7, 8, 9, the Metal Gear Solid franchise, Siphon Filter. Like,
I was just about to say Siphon Filter, because you say Metal Gear Solid, and people are like, yeah, I really like that game, but the thing is they still play it. You have to mention a very specific game that you played the shit out of back in the day, and then never played it again. It's like Siphon Filter. Mention that to anybody, they're like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember there was that thing used to taser someone, you fucking set them on fire if you held on too long.
Yeah, Symphony. I mean, I'm actually looking down a list right here of stuff, of things that I played. Symphony of the Night. I remember that was crazy. Like, I hadn't thought about Castlevania in a long time, and then somebody was like, hey, have you played that new Symphony of the Night game? It's pretty good. I was just like, what? The Tony Hawk Pro Skater series. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of Tomb Raider. Yeah, I played the original Tomb Raider on the PlayStation. Resident Evil, like you said. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff on the original PlayStation. I guess it's weird how maybe it's just the fact that NES fans or not NES but Nintendo fans are just more vocal about their love.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, like the vocal. Would you say minority, or is that wrong? Would you say?
I think at the time, I mean, I think that if you go back and you look at that time period, I don't know. I'd have to look up factual sales data for the N64 versus the PlayStation 1, but
they're definitely the most passionate, I'd say.
I think that it's just that PlayStation people, I think we're just too cool, Nick. We don't have to declare our ever loving because I was just looking at this list of all these great games in the original PlayStation 1, and I saw one on here that I was like, oh yeah. Or if you're at a bar or something, you're talking to somebody who's in their like late 20s or 30s, somebody who's around the right age for that. You're just like, hey man, you ever play Bushido Blade? And I'll be like, oh hell yeah, I love Bushido Blade. And you get into like a 30-minute conversation about the mechanics in Bushido Blade with some person you've never talked to before. Yeah, there were a lot of good games on the PlayStation.
It's just a given, really, with PlayStation fans. It's like, yeah, I know, it's awesome. I could relate to you if I really wanted to. Whereas like Nintendo fans, like really, really vocal, and they want to have like hour-long conversations about their games.
It probably comes down to is that I think that the high points on the N64 are probably a little. I think the N64, the best games on the N64 are probably better games. Those are probably some of the most important games of our generation. Stuff like Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time, stuff like that. Those are things that added to the fabric of what gaming was as a whole. But I think that across the board, you're going to find less up and down because there were plenty of shitty games on the PlayStation 1, but there were also a lot of solid, just you could play this shit for a long time, fun-ass games. I don't know. Like I said, I only owned one, so I have I have a kind of a weird bent to my thinking. So I don't know. Maybe folks out there could tell us what they think. Oh yeah, Gran Turismo. I bought the first controller that had analog sticks on it because the original PlayStation controller only had the D-pad and the buttons. It didn't even have the analog sticks on it. And then Gran Turismo came out. It was just like, I need the fine control to do the turns in this game. Yes. All right. Well, enough nostalgia. Next up, we have a fascinating story. I think this is one of the most fascinating stories I've read in a long time. So do you know what the EFF is, sorry, Nick?
Yeah. Oh, no, what is that?
It's the Electronic Frontier Foundation. They do kind of legal stuff based on trying to keep information technology in the hands of the public. They're kind of a somebody can go into more detail in the comments, but they do a lot of really interesting work. They'll tend to fund lawsuits that are trying to stem people gobbling up information technologies and stuff like that. But they just filed a petition with the Library of Congress and the United States Copyright Office that basically urging them to make it legal for people to take games that have an online component where the online component has been turned off and retroactively alter those games so that they can be played again. Does that make sense?
You mean like someone who buys a game and then trades it in, and then someone else buys that game?
No.
Which is pre-owned?
No. Okay, so if you buy, there's certain games like, okay, let's make up. Say you bought, just whatever. Blood Man 2000, right? When Blood Man 2000 came out, it was great, and you played the shit out of it, right? And Blood Man 2000 was a game that had this really heavy online component, but the online component dwindled over years and years and years, and the servers, they were run by Fuck You Vision, because that's the name of the company that made Blood Man 2000. And then eventually, Fuck You Vision was like, well, Bloodman 2000, well, there's like 6 people playing it. We're going to turn off the servers for Bloodman 2000. So then later on, somebody else comes along and they're like, oh, I remember Bloodman 2000. I want to play that with my friends. And they write a modification for that game that basically strips out the authentication from the game and then lets it play multiplayer on like a third-party server. So if I want to have a Bloodman 2000 server running in my house where anybody that owns Bloodman 2000 can download my patch and play on my server so that it can still be alive, that it's not illegal to do that. Because it does require stripping out some of the authentication and some of the verification things that they use for their online components. Basically, what this is saying is they want to make it legal for hackers and mod enthusiasts and people like that to go into older games and alter them so that you could still play them online. So you could still play them with other people, and you could still play them on community-run online servers, even though the company itself has abandoned the online functionality of that particular game.
Oh, to be honest, I don't really see who's being hurt here.
Well, up until now, I mean, it's a crime to do that, right? Is because if you have a game that plays on a specific company's servers, you have to literally go in and alter the code of the game to point to a different server, and you have to strip out the authentication, which, generally speaking, I mean, a lot of times that doing exactly what I'm saying, removing online checks and changing the authentication methods of a video game are traditionally ways that hackers will take games that require an online component or require some kind of online authentication and make them so you can download your own copy and play it without getting turned off by the company that made the game. So
yeah, I totally understand the reason, but I mean, like, if you're saying like if this game servers have been shut down, it's not like this game is still being played. Like, I know, I think last year or year before, I turned on Unreal Tournament again, and people are still playing the shit out of that game today. So of course, in that situation, I'm like, okay, that's good that it's against the law. But if it's a game that's servers have been shut down, then I'm totally for it. Even though it's illegal, but I'm for it being made legal to do that.
Yeah, no, me too, and that's why I think it's great. The other thing is that apparently in the petition, they also noted, I mean, they had a couple of things, but they noted, Civ 5 and Mario Kart Wii, and I think it'd be really interesting. I mean, on the PC, this seems like it's already kind of a no-brainer, right? Is on the PC, that stuff's so versatile, especially in a game like, like Half-Life still has servers running, I'm sure, somewhere people are playing Half-Life online. Team Fortress 1 is probably still running. You can probably still find Quake servers fairly easily because those were always games that were open to people running their own servers. But if this was the sort of thing that could trickle down to the console market, I think that's great, especially because there's a lot of console games that had online that have trophies and achievements that you can't get without playing the online component of the game. And as time goes on and that stuff gets turned off, I mean, it's a very minor quibble, right? But the fact that you can't get a platinum trophy in pick one, or can't get all the points, all the gamer points in a game because they turned off the servers and because 5 of the trophies or 4 or 5 of the achievements are based on kill this many people in multiplayer. I always thought that was kind of garbage, personally. Like that those should be kept offline. All right. Well, speaking of not garbage, I don't know. This is something that might be interesting to you as a PlayStation 4 owner, Nick. But Grand Theft Auto 5 is coming out on the PS4, the Xbox One, and the PC. I think it's. I don't remember when they're putting it out. Is it later this year or is it next year?
I thought it was.
Oh,
I thought it was this year.
Nope.
Wasn't it?
It's like it's not this year. It's like not the same week as Assassin's Creed, but the week after that. So the next to the last week in November is when Grand Theft Auto 5 is coming out on the Xbox One, the PS4. Now, did you play GTA 5 on the PS3?
Yeah, didn't we review it?
No, maybe. I don't know.
I can't remember. Yeah, I played the shit out of the game. Yeah, it was really, really good.
So there was a video that came out last week showing that apparently on the PS4, the Xbox One, and the PC version, they are integrating a first-person viewpoint. So you can
play first person in that game.
Yes, you could play Grand Theft Auto 5 from a first-person point of view, which seems. I mean, when I watched the trailer I watched the trailer for it. It was just like, wow, whoever's playing this is really good at Grand Theft Auto 5 because I would have flipped my car over like 6 times at this point. They're just driving in between cop cars and doing their own thing. But I think it's interesting because apparently they said that one of the biggest mods that they see in the GTA modding community is first-person mode for GTA 4 and some of the previous ones. So they're just adding in. They said that on the PS3 and the Xbox 360, they're already pushing the hardware so far to the limit that they didn't really have any spare cycles to add that stuff in. Are you going to be? Do you think you're going to be picking up GTA 5 for the PS4?
Maybe I will ask someone as a Christmas present, or if I'll trade in some other game that I'm completely bored with. But I think I'd be more entitled. I think I'd rather play that than, I don't know, like Evil Within. Because I know that I will 100% like that game.
Right. Do you think that if you played it, that you would play it in first person mode? Do you think there's? I mean, does that hold any appeal to you at all? Playing in first person mode?
Not really. I think I'll get bored of it after a while. But I mean, I've yet to see the trailer. I think one of the reasons I would get it is because I know I like the game. I know it's going to look awesome, and I'm not sure, but is there going to be like some huge DLC coming out, kind of like Undead Nightmare when that came out for Red Dead Redemption?
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard anything, but I could be wrong because I don't keep up 100% of the stuff. But I haven't seen anything saying that there's going to be any DLC. That I haven't even heard anything as big as like the Lost and the Damned or the Battle of Gay Tony. Like for me, it seems like all the work that they've been doing right now for GTA 5 has either been getting it to the PS4, Xbox One, or the multiplayer online component. Those are the two things that seem to be their primary concern right now. Maybe once it's out on the PS4, Xbox One, and they make another fucking gajillion, million, zillion, $billion, then they'll maybe do some single-player DLC. But I think if I remember correctly, that reading an article not too long ago that said that like for GTA 4, the Lost and the Damned and the Ballad of Gay Tony, those didn't. I mean, they sold reasonably well, but they didn't sell as well as Rockstar essentially wanted them to sell, for that to be a primary concern for them, right?
But think about how much money Rockstar makes regularly on their releases. I mean,
sure,
fucking hell, GTA 5 is the best selling game of all time. It's not. They're not going to pick their money back in terms of DLC.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know. I guess I just really liked those add-ons. I mean, I thought that taking.
I agree with you. Lost in the Damned was amazing DLC, and the Battle of the Gate Tony was even better. I still think Undead Nightmare is the best DLC I've ever played.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I'd love for them to do something like that. In fact, I was just bemoaning with John the other day about the lack of Halloween gaming stuff that I saw this year. But I don't know. It looks interesting. I highly encourage everybody to go check out the trailer. Oh, one really fascinating thing about it, though. This was the only thing that was really interesting, was that when you have the first person view on the PC version, does make this a candidate, actually a very good candidate for Oculus support, or for any VR support. Because if you have a game that you can play from a first-person perspective, third-person games don't work really super well in VR. But from a first-person point of view, especially if you can adjust the FOV in the game, there's like third-party drivers that you can use to make the game work in VR, essentially. And so that could be just incredible, right? Being able to tool around. It's in San Andreas, right? San Andreas in GTA 5 with the Oculus on. I think I would really be interested in looking at that.
I'd be up for that. Someone could play as the getaway driver and just use the Oculus and be more of a nimble driver.
Well, also speaking of first person, there was a 10-minute video that came out today showing, or no, this is from PAX Australia. This will probably be about a week ago at this point, for Star Citizen, showing the first person shooter module of Star Citizen. Now, are you familiar with Star Citizen, Nick?
Actually, you're the one who got me interested in Star Citizen.
Oh, okay.
Because I was wanting a game like that, and then I got lucky and found out that they were also making a game called No Man's Sky. So I'm getting two space exploration games instead of just one. So yeah, I'm totally excited for Star Citizen.
Well, so this showed a four-man group kind of going into this space station in a pretty, I mean, it looked fairly rudimentary first-person shooter perspective, blowing, shooting dudes and taking the place over, which I don't know, man. We talked about there was a video that was a couple weeks back that was third person land your spaceship and get out and walk around on a planet. We got some first person shooting. We got some flying some spaceships around. I gotta tell you, Nick, this is it for me. This is my Aliens Colonial Marines. I wasn't excited for Aliens Colonial Marines. I saw it and I was like, oh man, I don't know about that. But goddamn, they're gonna screw this up and it's gonna break my heart. Wait.
Are you sure? You were the one who got me interested in this game in the first place. Like,
I don't know. It's just at this point it seems too good to be true. It's starting to seem too good to be true, and I've become wary over the years of like, yeah, it's awesome and it's the best. You can do everything all the time, and it's gonna be the greatest game that's ever been made. Anymore, it's just like the greatest game that's. When I play the greatest game that's ever been created in the history of video games, I'm not going to even know about it because people are just going to be like, "Hey, man, did you play Bloodman 2015?" I'll be like, "No, dude, Bloodman, that was a horrible franchise." And they'll be like, "No, man, Bloodman 2015 is like the greatest game." Well, when my original friend who got me into the Souls series said, "You got to play Demon Souls, it's so awesome," and he showed it to me, and I was like, "Dude, fuck this game. This game looks like shit." And then. I mean, my friend who got me into it, he imported it from Japan. He imported the Japanese version, and he tried showing it to me, and I was just like, "This game looks stupid. What the fuck are you What do you mean? What do you mean the first guy in the first level can kill you and you're level 100? That's stupid. Get the fuck away from me with that shit." Anyway, though, enough of that.
Just picturing you like retiring from being a video game critic based on the awesomeness of one game.
Oh, well, no, I would never do that. I'm
really?
I'm trying.
If Star Citizen was everything that you wanted in a video game, surely you would just be like, I'm done. I don't need to play anything else. This is it.
No.
This is the holiest of holies.
No, because there's all that stuff that I didn't even know that I wanted in a video game. That's the thing I look forward to most in video games is the day that a game comes along and goes like, "Hey, check this out." And I'm just like, "What? I never even knew I wanted that so bad." But yeah, I don't know. It seems like an interesting trailer. I like everything I'm seeing of Star Citizen, but goddamn, I don't know. Maybe it's a testament to my own jadedness that like I'm like, I don't know. It looks really good, and that makes me nervous. Like, no, it's just gonna be a really super awesome game. I don't know, man.
I totally understand. I'm with you. I mean, that's probably why I'm a little bit wary of it. I'm just thinking, oh yeah, it's cool, and then I forget about it on purpose.
Yeah.
Just because I've just been disappointed too many times. Aliens Colonial Marines is the perfect example.
Yeah.
That shattered my faith in how games are marketed today.
Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you what has shattered my faith, Nick, is this week, or at the point this comes out, it'll be a little over a week ago, Bethesda has finally confirmed that Prey 2 is dead. Prey 2 fully, all the way canceled, over, and done with. And it makes me sad.
When was the last Prey game?
The last Prey 1 was the game about Tommy something, the Native American dude. He's in his like the diner by his house. Then aliens take him up, and they take him up into the cosmos. And he's got to like rescue his people from getting mulched into alien slime with a combination of, I believe, guns and was there some Native American mystic stuff in there? I don't remember. Maybe. Did you ever play the original Prey?
No, I got confused between Turok because that's the same thing, isn't it? Like Native American in space, except he's fighting dinosaurs or something.
Not exactly the same, but I can see the connection. Not all Native Americans are the same, Nick. I don't know if you know this. I know you're from Britain, right? But they're all different people. No, I'm just kidding. No, I played a little bit of Prey. I don't think I ever finished it, but it had a kind of a Doom 3-ish vibe to it. I remember it was one of those games where I never thought it was going to come out. I thought that it was a 3D Realms joint, and that was back when Duke Nukem Forever had been in development. It was like when Duke Nukem Forever had only been in development for like 3 or 4 years. And they were like, "Hey, Prey's actually coming out." It was just like, "Nah, oh shit, yeah, it totally is coming out." But did you even follow Prey 2?
I didn't actually even play Prey 1, so I mean, I heard about it just through the grapevine, but nothing much.
I mean, in 2011, when I went to E3, I went over to the Bethesda booth, and they showed a trailer for Prey 2, kind of a gameplay trailer for Prey 2, and it was basically the storyline of it was that there was this guy who was like a sheriff or something like that, and he got inexplicably transported to the other side of the galaxy, but what he ended up doing was he became a bounty hunter for alien criminals. He got all this technology that would help him hunt down alien criminals and stuff, like on the other side of the galaxy. So it's kind of like one human alone in this crazy world with all these different aliens and monsters and stuff like that. And it had this kind of Mirror's Edge traversal, and it had this kind of Deus Ex gadgetry and guns and stuff like that. This kind of weird social component to it. It looked just fantastic. Like, it was one of those games that I was really looking forward to. And then it's like they kind of canceled it. Now it's just like full on canceled. And so,
I'm sorry. It sounded like a really cool game.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe somebody will pick it up someday and finish it. Well, also when it comes to shit, what has been canceled, Dawngate is shutting down in 90 days. Well, let's see. That's 90 days from November 4th. And this is EA jumped on board the MOBA train a little while back, but with Dawngate, which was, I believe this was the one where it was kind of a make-your-own MOBA thing where you could kind of create your own heroes. Create your own heroes out of kind of a preset bunch of skills and stuff like that. But boy, that didn't last very long.
Wait, was it like a multiplayer game or something?
It was a MOBA. It was like League of Legends or Dota 2 or that kind of game. One of those multiplayer, like 5-on-5. I think it's like 5-on-5 hero based kind of top down online multiplayer games.
Well, we use the mouse to get characters around the screen and stuff.
Yeah, you don't pay any attention to Dota or MOBAs. It's basically it's the best, easiest way to describe it is Dota, or it was Defense of the Ancients, and basically they took Warcraft 3, and each one of you control one of the. It's like playing a real time strategy game, except you only control one character. You don't control a bunch of characters. You control one character, and so there's all these computer controlled creeps on the screen. But what you're really doing is you're fighting against people on the other side. It is. I mean, MOBAs, Dota 2, and League of Legends are probably the biggest video games in the industry right now. And they have huge tournaments. They are the biggest thing in esports. And they're so goddamn inscrutable that you need to play the games for like 90 to 100 hours just to realize how bad you are at them. And then you can start getting good again.
Oh, I don't need 90 to 100 hours to realize that with these kind of games.
No, you'll know how bad you are, but you won't really know how bad you are until you play it for that long. But yeah, Dawngate is shutting its doors. They were in beta for about 18 months, and for the feedback that they got, it looks like they just said, nah, this isn't going to be the thing that we hoped it was going to be, so they're shutting it down. So, I don't know. I think I tried playing it one time, or downloaded the client for it or something. But that's not bad to see a company like EA that's willing to just go, yeah, that didn't work. Let's just do something else instead. And we got 2 more stories before we're done here with the news. Next one is that I don't know if I've ever seen this in a video game before, Nick. I think this might be a thing that I've never seen before in any video game. LittleBigPlanet 3 is going to support all of the DLC and things that you bought in LittleBigPlanet 1 and 2. So if you bought...
Wait, how is it going to bring it over?
Well, since LittleBigPlanet, it's all on the PlayStation Network, right? So LittleBigPlanet 1, LittleBigPlanet 2 are PlayStation 3 games.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
LittleBigPlanet 3 is going to be on the PS4. I assume they're just going to port those assets over, and then you're just going to be able to download them on the PS4 the same way you would on the PS3. You just go to your download queue, and they'll have them in there, and or there'll be a check for content button. But I think it's really interesting because I don't know that I've ever. I mean, I'm trying to think, and somebody in the comments can maybe tell me because, and maybe you know, Nick, have you ever? Can you think of a game where if you buy DLC in the previous game, it has value in the next game? I mean, or you could not just value, but you can actually use it in the next game.
No, I really can't actually. It must exist somewhere.
I would think so, but I'm kind of running through the stuff in my head. I'm not seeing any. I'm not thinking of anything. But I think that's a really cool. And not only that, but it's also cross-platform.
What about like a DLC like within the Mass Effect games where you do the special mission and that mission will be mentioned in the next game? Would that count?
Yeah, that's one of the only things that I can think of is the fact that some of the DLC characters. Well, let's see. They mentioned the DLC characters in Mass Effect 3. I guess if you had them in Mass Effect 2, like I guess there's a Zaid mission and whoever was the thief lady, she was in there. But I mean, that's a little different. Like I'm still trying to think of like, okay, I bought this super gun for this one game, and then it carries over. I don't know. I'm really interested to have people in the comments let us know because I cannot think of an example of directly, because this isn't even like that. It's like if I bought the Metal Gear costumes or the Disney costumes for Sackboy in Little Big Planet 2, I could totally use those in Little Big Planet 3, which I guess pretty incredible. I mean, obviously Little Big Planet is less complicated than Mass Effect, right? Or I guess in some ways it's less complicated. In some ways it's more complicated. But I still think that's a really cool thing to do, and I hope that we see more of it in the future because I think that's a cool trend.
I do as well. I mean, like it really does make you think about all the money that you spent on DLC for games that were the last generation. Just to have the opportunity to bring them in the future titles, makes you more willing to buy them.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. All right, 2 more. We're out. Next one is that apparently there was a trailer that apparently the laughing dog from Duck Hunt on the NES is going to in some way be in Smash Brothers. I'm sorry, I'm not keeping up on all the individual announcements for Smash Brothers, but there was also an announcement that apparently they're bringing an upgraded version of Duck Hunt to the Nintendo Wii U Virtual Console.
How the fuck is that going to work?
Well, you use the Wii controller as the gun, and then you can play Duck Hunt on your Wii.
I know, but are they going to do anything? Like, or are they going to make it like a first-person shooter to this generation's graphics or something? Or they're going to take the original Duck Hunt and put it...
So... If I may read between the lines, it seems like what you're asking are they going to make Duck Hunt like a better game, or is it just going to be shitty old Duck Hunt except on the Wii U? And
I like Duck Hunt, but I'm just wondering how it's going to be done. And plus, I would like a version of Duck Hunt where you could shoot the fucking dog, because I had real problems with him, the way he was taking the piss out of me.
Mm-hmm. I think there is. I think there's already about 1 million Flash games out there that will let you just blow the ever-loving shit out of that dog. I don't know is the answer to that. I could say that if I had to guess, it seems like it's just going to be taking these upgraded assets that they made of Duck Hunt and putting them in and making a game out of them. Just basically making the same Duck Hunt game. I don't know. I'm watching a trailer right now. Oh, okay. So apparently the dog and the duck are actually in Smash Brothers as fighters or something. I don't know.
So you can beat the crap out of the dog?
Yes. Apparently nice. You can. But then apparently also they'll be bringing it to the Wii U as a thing. I don't know. I'm still interested to know if anybody really gives a shit about actually playing Duck Hunt anymore. Like, I remember at the time it was incredible, but I can honestly tell you, Nick, that I've never had the desire. I've never been sitting around going, I really wish I could just go back and play some Duck Hunt. Like, I really miss that game, Duck Hunt. I think I would.
You know what? Yeah, fuck Call of Duty. I'm going to put that down and play Duck Hunt.
That's right.
I mean, if it was like really cheap, like £2 or like a dollar, just to download, then be like, yeah, okay, fine. I mean, like the other day, I just bought and downloaded Max Payne on the iPhone, and I just been playing the shit out of that game. I just could not believe that I was able to play, a really awesome game like that just on an iPhone. So the fact that it was £2 made it that much sweeter. So if it was just like a pound or two or $2, then I would say it's worth it, but no more than that.
There was a thing like that last week where they put out Grand Theft Auto San Andreas on the Xbox 360, and they put it out, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is the shitty mobile port of San Andreas." And we played it last week on the streaming, and I was like, "Yeah, but it's like $4. It's $4. I've wasted $4. I mean, like, even for a frugal gamer." I mean, you would be extremely frugal for $4 to really bend you out of shape. We consider it is playable. Yeah, there are definitely some frame rate issues, and there's some things that could probably look a little bit better. But for fuck's sake, it's $4. Like, that's
Think about how much money you waste at an arcade playing the same fucking games that you have in your house.
Nobody goes to arcades anymore, Nick. Are they a thing?
well, I went with you to an arcade, and that wasn't that long ago.
Well,
so
that's true, but that's in hipster Austin, where we're like, yeah, man, we're gonna get drunk on PBR and go to the arcade. Yeah. All right. Speaking of people who should be drinking PBR, look at my segues; they're so good. All right, Nick. I don't know. Do you know the name Dennis Dyack?
No, I do not.
All right. Dennis Dyack is the founder of Silicon Knights, the people who brought us the wonderful Eternal Darkness. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
And if you had a Nintendo GameCube, you may have also played Metal Gear. The Twin Snakes was also a Silicon Knights thing.
I unfortunately never played that game. I was really pissed when they made that an exclusive for the GameCube.
Yep. And then we got Two Human, and then Xbox X-Men Destiny, and then Dennis Dyack sued Epic for their support of the Unreal Engine for Two Human, and then he did a Kickstarter for a game called Shadow of the Eternals, which is supposed to be a spiritual successor to Eternal Darkness. Not one, but two Kickstarters that both failed because Dennis Dyack is a crazy person at this point. People listen to him talk and go, I don't know. Right. But apparently Dennis Dyack has formed a new studio called Quantum Entanglement Entertainment, or QE2 if you're a dirty abbreviation whore like I am. And they're trying again for Shadow of the Eternals to get that off the ground as a spiritual successor to Eternal Darkness. I, for one, am so happy because I thought that Dennis Dyack had taken the hint and left the video game industry, because I love reading stories about this dude and his just full-on crazy pants, because he is absolutely a crazy, crazy, insane person. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But that's all the news that we have for this week. There's a fair amount of news this week, but you know what? We're going to take a very quick break, and when we come back, we don't have all the time in the world today, but we are going to try to get to y'all's questions, so stay tuned. Nick, you stay tuned as well. Stay tuned.
Will do.
And we'll be back momentarily with all the life advice that you've come to expect from RageSelect.com. All right, everybody, welcome back. It's time, Nick, to answer the questions. It's time for the people to send in their queries. But last week we had the podcast talked about Jason, taking a step back, and I didn't get that many good questions this week. I need more questions. Like, no offense to the people who did send in questions. All these questions that we got are fine. It's just I didn't get the amount of questions that I usually get to go through. So I want to make sure that everybody knows mail@rageselect.com is the email address. podcast needs your questions, or else you're just gonna have to. It's just gonna have to be the first 30 minutes, the first the hour or whatever it is. We're gonna talk a little bit. We're do some video game news, and then Jeff's gonna talk about Dark Souls for 30 or 45 minutes. And if I don't get questions, I'm just gonna fill the rest of the time with. I ain't gonna need a co-host at that point. I'll just have somebody in for the first hour, and the second hour I'll just be like, all right, guys, let's talk about Blighttown. You know what I don't like about Blighttown? Okay. All right. Anyway, mail@RageSelect.com is the email address. And our first question comes in from Joe. And Joe says, all hail the acolytes of the great Dong One. I am a lifelong Spider-Man fan, frustrated with games based on the web slinger. There was a time when Spider-Man games were some of the best superhero games out there and wonderfully captured the spirit of the character. But now Spidey games are, shall we say, crap, with the most recent entry being a magnificent flop. What do you think needs to be done to create better Spider-Man games? And if you could choose, who would you like to see develop a Spider-Man game? As always, love the site and your shenanigans, Joe. Nick, what are your general feelings about Spider-Man video games?
I've always been a huge fan of Spider-Man in video games. I mean, my first nostalgic memory of Spider-Man was Spider-Man on the PlayStation 1. Did you ever play it?
Yeah, I think so. It's been a while. I'm not as big a fan of Spider-Man as a lot of the other folks that I know. But yeah, I mean, I played, especially Spider-Man 2 is the one that everybody always talks about.
Well, no. I think what you're thinking about is like there was the Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation 1 and had nothing to do with the movies whatsoever. In fact, it was like 100% comic book related, like with the whole Black Cat thing. So like then when PlayStation 2 came around and the Spider-Man games were based on the movies with Tobey Maguire. And the Spider-Man 2 on PlayStation 2, which was amazing. But I'm talking about the original Spider-Man 1 games where I remember playing, I'm like, oh my god, you could swing. Oh my god, you could stick to walls. You can go up on the ceiling. But it's just that the writing was way better. It was much funnier. But generally, I've always been really appreciative of the games. I agree that the last couple weren't that good. And I guess it's probably because they were of the source material that's based on the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I think that they should kind of scrap the whole movie thing and just focus on the comic book universe, and try to bring that tongue-in-cheek humor that Peter Parker as Spider-Man was. I think the Spider-Man games that I played on the PlayStation 1 felt like the animated Adventures of Spider-Man, the one from the 90s, and that's what I really loved. So if they had games that harkened to that period in time, then that would just blow everything out the water for me.
So thinking about it, I hadn't really thought about it all that much, but I think that one of my biggest complaints maybe that I have with some of the Spider-Man games is that it seems like they're very they're somewhat one-dimensional in what you can do. You could swing, you could beat people up, you could swing, you could beat people up, and then you could swing some more. So I think that I'd maybe like to see more. I think I'd like to see, because Spider-Man always takes place in New York City, that I'd like to see somebody take more of like a Grand Theft Auto approach to Spider-Man, where there's a lot of things to do outside of just swinging around and beating up people. Like, I know that's Spider-Man's main MO, but you could make like you could think of something like Persona 4, where they had Persona 4 was an RPG at night where you went on the TV and you fought people's demons, but during the daytime they had this whole social aspect of, like, it was kind of like a Japanese social game simulator during the daytime, where you would have lunch with this person, or you would go to band practice, or you would choose who you would hang out with, or what you would do, and it would up your skills. So I think if they added some more Peter Parker style stuff in there that then also altered the Spider-Man gameplay. Also, I think that if they maybe I was going to say if they maybe darkened up the games a little bit, but
I think I know what you want. I think you want to play as Peter Parker just so you could beat the shit out of some bullies in high school.
Well, I'm just thinking that it's the thing is that with Spider-Man game, I think that a lot of Spider-Man games suffer from the fact that you're just kind of doing the same thing over and over again. And they either need to make sure to keep upping the ante and upping the ante and upping the ante as far as like powers and stuff that you are able to get, or they need to find something to break up the swing around, beat up criminals aspect of the game. Where
I totally agree with you. I think if they just added more variety to it, I mean, I know I'm going back to the animated Adventures of Spider-Man from the 90s, but he wasn't always in New York City. I remember that there was like an episode or two where he went to Moscow, and then he went to like a parallel dimension to another planet. You know, they kept taking him out of his elements of New York City.
Yeah.
And if they made it like that, it would be that much more epic, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it could totally work. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I bet that a really smart developer could probably get in there and make some kind of system where there was like would probably give you an interesting sense of time and urgency to what you're doing would be if you had some mechanic where you have to essentially make sure that Peter Parker's life doesn't fall apart, right? That there's a balance between, because isn't that one of the reasons that people like Spider-Man so much is because Peter Parker's just a regular guy. So if there was some aspect of the game that isn't just beating up thugs in New York City, but also trying to make sure that, like, if you just ignore Peter Parker's life, right, that it suffers, and then his performance as Spider-Man suffers because all he's doing is being Spider-Man. I don't know. I think that there's some stuff to do there. It's mostly just the fact that I feel like a lot of developers feel like they can get away with making a Spider-Man game by just making a game where you swing around and beat people up. And that in order to make a really, really good game, I feel like you need more. Anytime a developer leans on just one single gameplay mechanic that hard, I feel like a lot of times the game will suffer because you get into a habit of just doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over.
What
again.
about the Arkham games, though? That's essentially the same thing, but they're still really, really good.
Well, the thing about the Arkham games that I feel like Spider-Man doesn't really do as much, which would totally work, is that, like, especially in Arkham Asylum has that whole thing where you're locked out of parts of the map and you keep getting new abilities that will let you get into new areas, that will let you get into do new things. And I think that's hard to do in an open world game. Because Arkham City was kind of open world, but there was still places that were kind of shut off to you until you hit certain story beats. I don't know. I mean, I always feel like if you just had some of the people that were writing for the Arkham franchise, that would maybe be all that you needed, of just people who were trying to craft a slightly better storyline. I mean, I don't know. Like, the Amazing Spider-Man 2, it started with the death of Uncle Ben. Yet again. It's just like, how many goddamn times do I have to watch Uncle Ben bite it in Spider-Man? All right? We all know what happened to Spider-Man's uncle. We all know what happened to Bruce Wayne's parents. We know what happened to Superman's planet. All right? We don't need... You could just skip over that part and we could just go on with our thing. I don't know.
I think Spider-Man is the most guilty of, like, milking Uncle Ben's death as much as they can, even though in the fucking Tobey Maguire movies has showed him dying again and again in flashbacks. It's like, okay, can we just move on?
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't want to see Tobey Maguire cry again, please.
I tell you what I want to see is I want to see Dan Houser write a Spider-Man game. The guy who does all the writing for like Max Payne and the Grand Theft Auto series. I want to see like a gritty New York crime story that happens to have Spider-Man in it, right? Like, I want to see John Wick or Payback or something, but then also Spider-Man is in there as well. Like, yeah, that's what I want to see. It's gritty.
I'd be up for that. Anything to make it darker. That'd be all cool.
All right. Our next question comes in from our friend Connor. Connor says, Dear Jeff and Nick, it was my birthday on Tuesday. Happy birthday. And as a present for myself, I finally caved and bought an Xbox One. Since I am only 22 years old, this is the first console I've ever bought with my own hard-earned money. As such, my question for you, gentlemen, is what is the first console you guys ever personally purchased? As far as parameters go, any purchases made with money received as a gift do not count. Sincerely, Connor Brink. So what was Nick? I'm sorry, folks, we're going a little quick, but we got to wrap this up today. Nick, what was the first console that you ever bought with your own hard-earned cash?
I think it was the PlayStation 3. Yeah, and I remember because I was in college at the time, and I spent like a whole year just like putting aside money and putting it in like a little biscuit jar I had in my bedsit, and just did that month after month after month. And then finally, this is the dumbest idea. This is right when I'm supposed to be revising, and I looked over and I saw the biscuit jar was completely full. I'm like, oh my god, I have enough money, but I really need to finish this dissertation. Fuck it. All right, so go out, and I go to the game shop, and the guy was just so surprised that I handed him like a fistful of money, and as he was like in my hand. And
I just like this idea of you walking in to buy a PlayStation 3 with like one of those big water jugs full of quarters or something, just dragging in like this 250-pound thing of change, just like, all right, I want the PlayStation.
Oh, and he's like, okay, and he's trying to get the money from me, but I won't let him have it because it took me like a year to save out that much money. I'm like, I want it, but I don't want to give it to you because I put so much fucking effort into filling this fucking thing. So, yeah, and then I just lugged it all the way back to my dormitory, which was like a 20-minute walk. That PlayStation 3 is fucking heavy, dude.
Did you feel really self-conscious walking down the street with like, what was it, a $650 console in your hand?
I did, but I was really happy that it was 9 o'clock in the morning. Because I'd stayed up all night to write up this dissertation, and so I was doing an all-nighter. Mm-hmm. So everyone else was like fast asleep, and it was just me. So if it was like the last thing at night, then I'd be worried because I could get mugged. But I don't know. I felt dirty and very guilty. That's
every single time I get a console, every console I've ever purchased in my entire life, whenever I have it in my hands and I'm walking like when I got my PlayStation 4, I got Xbox One, when I got we bought the Wii U's, anytime that we get a anytime that I get a console, I'm always convinced that I'm going to get jacked between the store and my car, that somebody's going to jump out from the shadows. Because it's always a midnight launch, or it's in the middle of the night that I'm doing this. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning at some sketchy-ass Walmart that you're buying this shit. You're walking to your car, and somebody's going to be like, "Ha! You got one of those. Now give it to me, or I'll fill you full of lead."
Yeah, and you can't deny it, because, like, what are you talking about? I didn't buy anything. It's this massive, like, GameStop bag. That can only fit a console in it. There's nothing else in that shop.
Well, either that or, I mean, here in Austin, we have that bag ban, so they won't even give you a plastic bag. So you're carrying this cardboard suitcase with the words Xbox One in the biggest letters just plastered across the side of it. You're just like, oh, God damn it, I'm going to get killed. For me, I think the first console I ever bought with my own money was me and a friend went halvesies on a PlayStation 1. He was my roommate at the time, and we bought it from the store that we both worked at for, I think it was a reduced price. I think the PlayStation 2 was probably, oh God, you know what, Nick? Now that I think about it, I think the PlayStation 1 might have been the only console that I ever spent non-gift related money on. I think that every other console that I've ever no. I bought my Wii and I bought my 360 out of my own pocket when I worked over at Spill. But I know that the PS3, I had to curry in some Christmas money with a little bit of a gift certificate that I had, and the PlayStation 2 and my GameCube. I think I got both of those as Christmas presents. And then the PS4, the Xbox One, those the site has paid for essentially. So yeah, I think that the Xbox 360 and the Wii, and then the original PlayStation I split with a friend, but those are the only ones I've ever paid for. Wow, I'm an entitled piece of shit.
Yeah,
Jesus.
You should have fucking stopped at PlayStation 1, that would have been okay.
Hey man, full disclosure for the fans. I want everybody to know what kind of asshole they're listening to, okay? And speaking of which, that's a great lead into our next question from Stupendous Man, who says, hey guys, what's something you've learned since you started Rage Select, whether it be about yourself, the games industry, or how to run a website? Thanks for all the hours of entertainment, and rage on, Stupendous Man. And I'm going to open this up to you, Nick, is just saying, because, you worked over at Spill with me before that. What's something you've learned about yourself since you started doing video game, podcasting, journalism, take your pick what you call what we're doing here, talking about your dick and video games at the same time. What's something that you found out about yourself? You're like, wow, I'm really racist. I never knew that before. That's weird, man. I like video games, but I really hate women. How did that even happen? God.
I think I learned that I know jack shit about video games because, like, before I started doing the show, like, I really loved video games and I talked about them all the time. But the stuff I played was only the tip of the iceberg, and you guys, and especially all the fans, were that much more hardcore about it that it kind of humbled me in a sense. So that's what I learned.
Dude, I've learned the same. I learned the same lesson. I'm just like, because I always thought of myself as a big video game fan, but I've always been like, I want to know a little bit about all the stuff. But the thing is, what you tend to learn, and it took me a while to realize that it was different people every time, is that you're like, when you're like, yeah, Devil May Cry for what was it? It was stupid. The main character's name was Dickface, and it was half Dante and half the other guy that was not Dante. But you see, you just like rattle off a few things, and somebody's like, no, the game came out at 7 p.m. on September of this, and the game package smelled like raspberries if you got it from GameStop, and it smelled like onions if you got it from Walmart, and the color of the DLC boots was and you're just like, dude, I mean, like, the way that I even talk about video games has changed since I started. I used to say, like, so Master Chief is just a total dick face. He's a shit character and everybody hates him. And now when I say that, I'm like, I think that Master Chief is pretty much like, you hear all the little add-ons that you put in there to kind of like
save your own ass, basically.
Take some of their, and it's happened to the point now where it's unconscious, where I don't even think about it anymore. I'm just like, so I may be wrong about this, but you guys know this one game, and it may have been coming out over here, but I'm pretty sure that when I saw it last, it was supposed to be like
point. You know what? You've got a good excuse. I mean, like, you try to know a little bit about everything, whereas what I do is that I try to know everything about a certain number of games. So if there's a game that I absolutely adore, then I will pour all of my heart and soul into every little detail and find, like, paying that much attention to it, and I'll just ignore everything else that doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah, well, it's funny, when we were playing, I actually got a face full of this particular effect recently because we were playing Metal Gear Solid 3 for our sequential Saturday. That was the last sequential Saturday that we did. And we got to the end of the game. Like, our last episode was literally just watching the end cutscene of the game because, it's that giant-ass cutscene that happens at the end.
Well, him saluting at the gravestone.
Right. It started with them getting on the plane and the Ocelot thing, and then to there. And so Jason had really not been paying any attention. I mean,
he was fucking falling asleep.
Paying very little attention to what was going on. He was like, so what exactly, can you paraphrase for me just what's going on? And I was like, so let's see, the boss, and then she was a double agent, and blah, blah, blah. And people came in, they were just like, you missed all these plot details. And I was like, yeah, it's been like 5 to 10 years since I've played Metal Gear Solid 3, and I know that Jason didn't really give a shit about the intricacies of just, like, give me a break, right?
It's kind of hard to pay attention when you two are bullshitting and making fun of the game at the same time.
Right. It would have been, I feel like I've always said this, is that nobody wants to just watch me play a video game, because it's not like I sit here when there's nobody else in my house and just run my mouth the entire time I'm playing the game. It's not like I'm playing Sunset Overdrive by myself going like, haha, did you see that? Oh, that reminds me of telling someone. I don't just make conversation. And it's a lot harder to pay attention when you're having to run your mouth at the same time. But I've also learned that it's really difficult to run a website. I just, I don't know anything about running a small business. I like video games. So people are like, yeah, we should get more hits. And I'm like, great. How? Do you pay for fake Twitter likes, and then that makes you more popular? And so I don't know.
Actually, I was going to be asking you for tips on how to start a small business, like after the show or something. All I got so far is like how to start a small business for dummies.
Right.
shit you not, I actually got that fucking book because I was like, what else can I get in the shop?
I have no idea, or either that, or it's so much work just doing. I have learned about myself that I can sacrifice a lot of my life in order to do this job. But yeah, it's interesting, the stuff that you learn. It's also, I feel like it's another thing that is really interesting, and we're getting down to the wire here, so I don't want to tarry on this too long, but I feel that you really learn a lot about yourself when a whole bunch of people sit in judgment of you all the time. When you got a bunch of people who are more than willing to come out and vocally tell you what you're doing wrong, when you're doing it wrong, etc. It's hard. Like I don't have the ego to be able to just go, well, plebeians, you know nothing, get the fuck away from me, right? Like I tried to take all that stuff into account, but man, some days it's hard being on the internet and putting yourself out there and even making the most the most wishy-washy statements about things that you think you've covered your ass about, and still somebody's just going to be right up there just saying, no, you're wrong, and here's all the reasons why you're wrong. And I don't know, it's some days it's really difficult to run the website, but let's not dwell on that. We got 2 more questions and not very much time to get through them. So this next one comes in from, nope, skipping this one. Boom. Let's see. Okay. This one says, hey guys, Brandon here with a console question. Now I own a PS4 and saw the Xbox One is going down in price. I got to ask, from your experience with the system, is it worth my money? I see the exclusives, and while nothing wowed me, I'm still on the fence. Thanks for all the work with you, one of us. It's like having Spilled 2 packages from Brandon. So, Brandon, I think that, I don't know if you know this, Nick, but over the holiday season, they're dropping the price of the Xbox One by $50. So it's $350 instead of $400, which I think is really smart for them. As far as, is it worth the money? I mean, I think so. I mean, I think that if you're planning on getting into the next console generation, that's probably not a bad place to start. $350.
Didn't he just say he had a PlayStation 4?
Did he? Let's see. Oh, I own a PS4. Okay, never mind. Okay, yes. So Xbox One is going down in price. Is it worth my money to have both a PS4 and an Xbox One? Okay, that's going to depend on... you just need to go and take a look at the games that are exclusive to the Xbox One, because if you're not into Sunset Overdrive or the Master Chief Collection or Project Spark
or Tomb Raider,
Scalebound, Tomb Raider's eventually coming to the PS4 after a year. I
heard it was just being an Xbox exclusive.
Was it?
I thought it was just an exclusive for Xbox.
I don't know. Let's see.
I hope it's not, because I like the first Tomb Raider.
Let's see here. Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider. No, Rise of the Tomb Raider. It's formally announced the press release after our first trailer. E3. The game is set for holiday 2015 for the Xbox 360 and Xbox One, with a release on other platforms possible after an unspecified date. I'd be willing to bet that eventually it's going to be... I'd be willing to bet that's probably going to be a timed exclusive. But to be honest, that's coming out at the holiday of 2015. So if you could wait that long, if that's the one game that you're looking forward to, there's probably going to be another price break between now and then. So
I would honestly just say wait. To be perfectly honest, I still feel there aren't enough games for the PlayStation 4.
I don't know. I've been enjoying quite a bit of the stuff that I've seen, but for this question, the answer is you just have to go look at the exclusives. Forza Horizon 2, Crackdown 3, Quantum Break, Halo, Ori and the Blind Forest, Scalebound, Halo Master Chief Collection, Sunset Overdrive. Go look at all that stuff. Just go watch the Microsoft press conference from E3 this year. And most of the stuff that you're going to see there is they focused a lot on games, and they focused quickly on games. So if you're a Halo fan, if you're fans of certain types of games, then it's totally worth it. But unless you're super excited about the specific exclusives, I don't think there's any good reason to have both of them right now. I need to have both of them. You do not need to have both of them unless you just really need to play Halo yet again. So that's what I think. I don't know. All right. Last up, this comes from Lucas. This is our last question. And Lucas says, if you had to get rid of one of the current big video game companies, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, or Valve, because of Steam, which one would you choose? This company will no longer publish/produce another game. Their online services would cease working, and they will never make a console again. Thanks, Lucas. What do you think, Nick?
I don't know. I don't want to sack anybody.
No, you got to. They've got your family. Your family is in the tank. It's filling up with water, man. You've got to.
Some of those companies have made some really good games, even though they've made some shit ones too.
The saw puppet guy, he's there. He's forcing you to make a decision. You got the bear trap on your head, and I'm over the fire, and your family's in the water tank, and Carrie Always is going to chop his foot off unless you tell him the answer of which one you want. I don't know. It's a really hard decision as I was actually thinking about it. And here's what I came up with. All right. This question is almost guaranteed to piss other people off with whatever your answer is, right? So I want to be very clear about my answer. If I had to lose one of those companies, it would probably be Microsoft. Not because I think the Xbox or the Xbox One or any of their properties are bad, but because of those companies, I feel like Valve and Microsoft are so closely related that you could probably lose one of them and not suffer too much. And if I had to lose one of them, I would rather it be Microsoft than Valve, because Valve has way more games on the Steam platform, than Microsoft does on Xbox One, Xbox Live. And so I feel like if Microsoft was never going to make a game again, a lot of the games that they make come from third-party developers who could go off and make games still on the PC or whatever. So that's what I would choose, but that's really a very calculated decision.
It's kind of twisting your arm, to be honest, because you don't want to let anybody go.
Yeah.
Okay, fuck it. I'll be selfish. I'll pick Blizzard.
Wait, what?
Simply because
that's not where we're saying that you get four choices. You have four choices.
I can't think of that many, companies. I'm going to say one.
No. You only have four choices as your answer: Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, or Valve. Which one?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nintendo. Because I don't play Nintendo. So I can be selfish then.
Yeah, that's fair enough. You're just like, I haven't owned a Nintendo console. All right. Well,
I'm not missing out.
Well, folks, that's it. The show may be slightly shorter this week, but that's fine. But we do need your questions, so please send them in to mail@rageselect.com. That is mail@rageselect.com. Please stop sending them to the admin account. I don't check that account for emails, so they're just going to get lost. I'm not going to read them on the air. Nick, thank you so much for coming on the show this week. It was kind of short notice.
Pleasure.
Yeah, it's nice to have you on. And we'll have to get you back on again soon. And let us know, obviously, when the site launches, so that we can, pimp you out on the show.
Oh, thanks, man.
Not literally. I mean, figuratively. I mean, Jason isn't here anymore, so you don't have to worry about, the actual pimping happening. I'll do the nice pimping. All the nice pimping, or the big pimping, as they say from time
I'm sure he'll make like a special guest appearance just in order to grill me.
He's just going to hear like his ears prick up, like, what? Nick Hodges is on the podcast, and suddenly he just, like, his Skype profile just butts in from one side, just like, hey, is Hodges on there?